Hello filmmakers, it's Kerry with Filmmaker Central, and today a topic that is near and dear to my heart, something that I use almost on a daily basis. We're going to talk timecode. Okay, what is timecode? If you are not familiar with timecode, it's a way of putting time information into the metadata of the video footage. Pretty simple. It's displayed in 4 digits. You've got hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. So based on your frame rate, the frames is going to be different, right? It's either you could be at 30 frames per second or 24 frames per second. So you need to set that in advance to make sure that everything is the same across all your different cameras. Now, I'm not using high-end cinema cameras. For the majority of my work, which is my other YouTube channel, Trail Traveler, we're using these, the action cameras and drones. And it's never really been easy to get timecode into the footage. Now, for the past year or so, the way we've been doing it is using a tool called QT Change 64. I'm going to go ahead and let me show you this piece of software here. We take our footage into QT Change 64. Up in the upper left-hand corner, we've been saying, assume the time code is from the creation time, and then we hit do it. And what that does is it jam syncs time code into the footage based on the time of day that the footage was shot. Now this works mostly well. And the whole purpose for doing this is when we're editing our off-roading videos, we've been recording for hours, 3, 4, 5, 8 hours sometimes. And what we want is to be able to put all the footage into the timeline in correct chronological order. This gets fairly difficult. It's difficult regardless, but when you have 2, 3, 4 different cameras, to get all of that in the time code or in the timeline in the correct chronological order is actually fairly difficult. So by taking all that footage, putting it into QT Change 64, and setting the time code to be the time of day for every single clip, what it starts at, it creates the time code for, has been a huge change in our workflow. It has made things so much easier. Now, QT Change 64 is what I've been using for the past year. Another tool that I use on a regular basis is called Edit Ready. And Edit Ready for the Mac is a great tool for doing transcoding, from going from one codec to another. If you want to create proxy footage, or you want to upsample stuff, or whatever you want to do, it's a great tool. It now can do this same exact thing and adjust the time code based on the creation date. So there's 2 different ways of doing it. QT Change 64. This has been my go-to, and I'm still using it because I'm not transcoding anything. I'm just changing the time code. So now that works mostly. And the reason I say mostly is because in order to get all the cameras to have the same time, well, let's just say it's not very accurate, okay? At the beginning of the day, I'll use the DJI Mimo app and the GoPro app, and I'll connect to each camera, which sets the time properly. I'll take a picture to make sure that the time is set properly. When we fly with drones, we're doing the same thing. We're connecting to the phone the first time to make sure that those file creation dates are all correct. Now, that being said, it doesn't work very well. And it works well enough, I would say, for our general purpose. but it's not accurate because even though I'm using the same phone and connecting to the cameras to set the time and date, they can be off by up to 2 seconds. And it's just the time it takes for that app to go to the camera, set it, and confirm it. There's some different delay between different types of cameras, and they never end up exactly the same. So the next option is to actually use real timecode. Now, for that, you need a timecode generator. Well, this is a Diety TC-1 timecode generator. These run about 150 bucks. This is the tool that I'm now using to put proper timecode on any platform. Now, I'm going to tell you a couple different ways we use this. I'm going to take this off because it's just flinging around here. Now, what I do at the beginning of the day, I log in or I connect my phone using their app to this, and I say, start this at time of day. Now, it doesn't have to actually be that accurate, which is fine, because it's just going to be the beginning of our timecode sync. So if it's noon, it's going to say 12:00:00:00. Great, boom, and it starts counting up immediately, and on the screen, it's going to continue to count up all day long. And for like 20 hours, this thing can run. So now we need to get these numbers into different cameras. Some support it pretty easily, some don't. So here's what we do. The GoPro and the DJI Action 3 support jamming timecode. That means using an external source to set the timecode clock on these. Pretty cool. Now that's the latest official firmware for the DJI Action 3, and it is the latest GoPro Labs firmware for the Hero 9, 10, and 11. This is not the official firmware, it is the GoPro Labs firmware, supports timecode. Means it will probably hit official firmware at some point in the road, but right now, this is a Labs feature only. So you install different firmware on here, and it can support timecode. Now, on a camera like the DJI Action 3, or the Action 2, Sony ZV-1, or the drones, they don't have a way of jamming that timecode. So we're going to deal with that in a couple of different ways. But let's start with these two, okay? The Action 3, pretty simple. We're going to take the Diety TC-1. Now, you cannot use the cable that comes with it. You have to get a USB-C to 3.5 millimeter microphone adapter cable. And I'm going to put links to 2 of those in the descriptions so you can get a cable that I have tested to make sure it works. There's the Boya and there's a Saramonic, and they both work. So you're going to go USB-C to 3.5, which connects to here. And once we connect that, we go to the timecode screen on the camera and let it sync. Let me show you how that works. Okay, we've got the Action 3 sitting here with the Diety TC-1. We connect things up, we go to the timecode screen, and boom, we have timecode sync. Pretty easy. Okay, let's move to the GoPro. Now, with the Hero 9 or 11, you can use the media mod or the microphone adapter. With the 10, which is what I have, the microphone adapter does not work, only the media mod does. So I had to buy the media mod because, of course, I only had the mic adapter. Now, on the media mod, what we have on the back is microphone input. So we actually go straight from here into the Diety, and boom, we can sync the timecode. So let me show you how that works. Okay, we've got the GoPro here. We have the Diety clicking away. We connect them up. You see the timecode come up, so it's detected the signal, and it goes green to tell you that that is now synced. We disconnect, and it says that it's synced up. Great. Now, these two cameras are now in sync. Hopefully, exactly in sync. If so, we're really off to a good start. But now we need to deal with cameras that don't support that type of timecode sync. So here would be an Action 2, a ZV-1, an A7 III, a Canon R6, whatever, any other normal camera. The way this can work is you can take the TC-1 using the cable here and go into the microphone jack of the phone or of the camera. Now, if you just keep that running, you're going to end up with timecode signal on one of the channels. I believe it's the left channel or the right. I don't remember. One of either the left or right channel is just going to have noise from the timecode generator so that editing apps can see that and use it. Well, that's all fine and dandy unless you're trying to run a good microphone on here. Because once you plug this in, you only have this tiny cheap microphone on top, which might be able to give you some reference audio, but it's definitely not good. It'd be nice if this had audio in, so we could go from a good mic into here, out of here, into a camera, and have our good audio on one channel and the timecode on another channel. But it doesn't work that way. So what we also can do, and we'll actually show you how we do this on here, is we can start the camera looking at the screen on the TC-1. So we know the time code that that footage starts at. So let's go over to the computer here. And I'm going to open up Davinci Resolve. I'm going to take my Action 2 footage, just drop it here. Now, of course, my exposure is way off, so I'm going to have to I'll just bring up the shadows real quick. We're just trying to get an idea of what we're seeing here. Okay, so our time code begins at 13:35:34:17. I've got my Action 2 footage in QT change 64. I'm going to come up here to fix and say 13:35:34:17, and I am going to take this footage out of Resolve because I don't want it to be open. I don't want that file to be opened by anything. I click OK and click Do It. Yes. All right. So now our Action 2 footage starts at 13:35:34:17, which is what we saw on the footage. So far, so good. Now, how do we work with that time code? All right, let's go back into Davinci Resolve, and I'm going to take that Action 2 footage, drag it into my media pool here, and we can see our starting time code, 13:35:34:17, which is what I put in. Our Action 3 started a few seconds later. Okay, that looks like it should be good. Let's go to our timeline, and I'm going to select the Action 3 because that is my A camera. So that's my primary camera I was using on this shoot. I right click, I say Insert Clips to Timeline using Timecode. Okay, well, we don't see anything, but we're at 104. So if we scale down our timeline, there's our footage. Great. And it starts at 13:35:42, which is what the footage says. If we look in the inspector, 13:35:42:13. Awesome. Now we need to add the Action 2 footage that we manually changed. So I'm here in Davinci Resolve. I'm going to change my target track, the video track and the audio track. I'm going to go to the Action 2 footage. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say Insert using Timecode. Boom. They're both in there synchronized. Now, sometimes this is going to be a little off because I did it manually. I may not have done things exactly right. So it might not be perfect doing it this way. Had I used the GoPro and the DJI Action 3, those would have synced exactly perfectly. because they're both doing the same thing. This might be a little off because of manually setting that time code, but it's going to put me in the ballpark much easier than it would be doing any other type of thing. Now, again, if I had drone footage, I would put that on video 3 track, and every camera is going to go on its own track so it doesn't end up overwriting existing footage. So if I hadn't moved this to video 2 and audio 2, it would have basically overridden that first piece of footage that I laid down. So I'm going to put each footage, each camera on its own track. Then I can always move things down. Now, when I go to edit, well, my footage here is starting at 1335, and yet my timeline is going to start at 1, right? So very easy, click at the beginning in the empty space, hit delete, and now our footage is at the beginning of the timeline. So very simple to get rid of all that other stuff. Now, the one reason why I'm still going to continue to use tools like QT change and have that be part of the time code, the time of day, well, I'm also doing that with the Diety, right? When I start the day off, I tell this to start at time of day, right? And that way, here, when we're looking at the footage where it ended up on the timeline, 1335, that's 1:35 in the afternoon. So if I get a piece of footage from somebody else was filming, and they say, oh, here's a piece of footage, and I'm like, oh, can I use that? They're like, sure. All I have to do is look at that file creation date, and I know where it fits into my timeline. Or I can run it through QT change 64 and add time code based on the file creation date. Now, if somehow that date got screwed up, at least I know where it was based on that file creation time. So it's very easy for me to take other footage that didn't have time code and put it in the correct chronological order because my timeline basically matches time of day. Hope that makes some sense. So now you don't have to do it that way. When you first turn this on, and it could be 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's going to start at all zeros. All right. I have to go into the software on the app to, on the phone, I mean, to say, okay, sync to time of day, boom, great. I do that, and then I get that into all the cameras. Now, the downside with taking a picture of the screen and using that is, especially with drone footage, I can do that before I take off, but then I cannot stop recording. If I stop recording at any point during the flight and I start recording again, that new clip is not going to have timecode information. So again, I can go back to time of day with QT change, get me in the approximate, ballpark, usually within just a few seconds. So it's going to still save me a ton of time. But investing in a tool like the TC-1 is definitely going to make things a lot smoother and a lot more accurate than doing it other ways. So hopefully this video helped explain what timecode is, how to use it, how to sync it into different cameras, some inexpensive tools to generate the timecode, and then how to use that timecode within Davinci Resolve. If you have any questions about timecode or what we did here, be sure and put them in the comments. This is something that I'm really big on because it has made a massive difference in how I edit footage for our other channel. So thanks for watching, everybody. This has been Kerry with Filmmaker Central. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.